History is full of captivating stories, but some chapters remain frustratingly blank. Whether it's Amelia Earhart's ultimate resting place or the identity of Jack the Ripper, some unsolved mysteries have baffled experts for centuries. But hold it right there. If you're expecting another rehash of the usual suspects, I've got a surprise for you. Because today's list is all about the unsolved mysteries people rarely talk about. I'm Mike with List 25, and here are the greatest unsolved mysteries that still puzzle experts. How much do you know about cryptophagia? I know. Crypto what now, right? Cryptophagia, also known as twin talk, is a fascinating phenomenon where twins develop their own unique language, complete with their own words and sounds, understood only by the two of them. While once thought rare, studies suggest it might occur in up to 40% of twins. The unique language usually fades away as the twins get older, and scientists have no idea why it develops in the first place. Some believe it can be due to limited exposure to adult language, while others think it simply is a way to solidify their special bond. Whatever the reason, cryptophagia is just one part of the incredible connection twins know and share. In 1982, an article in the New York Times confirmed that divers near Rio de Janeiro discovered a huge collection of amphoras, those tall jars used by Roman ships in the 2nd century BCE in Guanabara Bay. The archaeological world went nuts. If this was a reliable find, the Portuguese were not the first Europeans in Brazil. Some, like the treasure hunter and archaeologist Robert Marks, were convinced that the Romans reached Brazil 17 centuries before the Portuguese. Others believed the jars to be fake or a clever hoax, but the jars were overgrown with barnacles. In fact, some had even become encased in coral. And then, the plot thickened. Brazil placed a blanket ban on underwater exploration in the area. Did they fear what might be found, or was it simply a bureaucratic roadblock? The truth, much like the amphoras themselves, remains buried beneath the waves of Guanabara Bay. Captain Kidd, a Scottish privateer, captured his fair share of ships during his time at sea, but the moment he plundered the Quetta Merchant, a vessel carrying goods for an Indian nobleman, he became a wanted man. Kidd traveled to New York to insist that he only targeted approved ships. He even offered to give up the location of his $20 million treasure in exchange for a pardon, but the offer was rejected and Kidd was hanged in 1701. To this day, nobody knows where Kidd buried his loot. The wreck of the Quetta Merchant was located in 2007, sans Kidd's treasure. Treasure hunters have been looking for that treasure for centuries, but haven't had any luck finding it. So, who knows? Maybe it's time to leave the rat race and set sail for some pirate gold. In 1877, when Laurency Venom was around 13, her life took a strange turn. Seizures left her unconscious for days, and she would wake up claiming that she had visited the spirit world. Her condition worsened, and strange abilities started emerging during her trances. She even claimed to be different people, including an old German woman. And then, things got weird. Laurency claimed to be possessed by Mary Roth's spirit, a young girl who died 12 years earlier, and insisted on staying with the girl's family. For months, she lived as Mary, even forgetting parts of her own life. Finally, Laurency announced Mary's spirit would leave on a specific date, which miraculously happened. Whether it was a psychological condition or something supernatural, Laurency Venom's possession continues to baffle believers and skeptics alike to this day. In 2019, Navy warships were repeatedly buzzed by mysterious swarms of drones off the coast of Southern California. And I'm not talking about one or two. There were literal swarms cruising over destroyers like the USS Kidd and USS Bunker Hill in the dead of night. Despite attempts to track the objects, the Navy's best tech couldn't pin them down, leaving everyone wondering who or what was behind them. At one point, suspicion fell on a nearby cargo ship, the Bass Strait, but the drones stuck around even after it left. To this day, no one knows the drone's origin or purpose, leaving the Navy, and the rest of us, with a very strange unsolved mystery. In 1998, developers in Miami expected to find sand and bedrock while digging for a new high-rise project. Instead, they struck a mystery. A massive 38-foot stone circle carved right into the bedrock, now called the Miami Circle. This wasn't just any circle. It held 24 large limestone-filled basins and was surrounded by ancient artifacts like shark teeth, animal bones, and simple tools. Archaeologists quickly took over the site and dated the circle to around 2,000 years ago, linking it to the Tequesta, an early indigenous tribe. While no one knows exactly why the Tequesta created this circle, many experts believe it could have some kind of ceremonial or spiritual purpose, but we'll probably never know for sure. Across the plains of Jordan and Syria, you'll find enormous ancient stone circles that date back as far as 4500 BCE. That makes them older than the Roman Empire. Some of these big circles are more than 1,450 feet wide, arranged with such precision that modern technology might struggle to replicate it. These low stone walls stand only a few feet high, but here's where it gets weird. They have no clear openings or doors, so if it was meant to enclose animals, for instance, they would have had no way to enter. Their layout and large size definitely suggests that they were intended for something beyond basic enclosure or shelter, but their exact use remains unknown. Winding through New Hampshire's rugged Ammonoosuc Ravine Trail, hikers heading to the Lake of the Clouds hut get more than mountain views. Built on Mount Washington in 1901 after two hikers died in brutal conditions, this hut has been the setting for spooky tales ever since. In one hair-raising report, an AMC member assigned to open the hut for the season was found hiding under a sink, too shaken to move. He claimed ghostly faces were all around him, holding him in place. And it doesn't stop there. Hikers say that mocking the spirits of those who died on the mountain invites trouble. Some report feeling invisible hands shoving them. Oddly, shoes left unattended also seem to vanish, leading some to nail their boots to the walls for safekeeping. So, since of course ghosts aren't real, right? What did the AMC member actually see that left him so terrified? Who or what is shoving hikers around? And what's with the disappearing shoes? Beaver Dunes Park, Oklahoma is known for its sandy hills and scenic hiking, but it also has a darker reputation as Oklahoma's Bermuda Triangle. The strange disappearances here date back to the 1500s, when Spanish explorer Francisco Coronado reportedly lost several men in the dunes. Native Americans had already warned Coronado that the dunes were dangerous, but he reportedly brushed it off. Fast forward to more recent years, and the mysteries only get worse. A pioneer woman in 1897 and a tourist in 1987 also vanished without a trace. Some believe a portal, or shaman's portal, swallows those who stray too far, while others believe a UFO crashed here long ago, and the sands conceal its wreckage. Adding to the intrigue, witnesses claim to have seen men dressed in military gear digging at night, leaving everyone with more questions than answers. Deep in space, incredibly powerful flashes of energy can explode in the blink of an eye. We're talking about fast radio bursts, or FRBs, cosmic bursts that release just about as much energy in milliseconds as our sun does in days, weeks, or even years. We've detected nearly 1,000 of these in the past 2 decades, but scientists are still puzzled about what causes them. To add to the mystery, some FRBs repeat like clockwork, while others are one-time only events. The leading theories point to the involvement of extreme objects like black holes and neutron stars, but the jury's still out. In a strange event back in 2017, dozens of octopuses mysteriously abandoned their underwater homes and ventured onto the shores of Wales. For 3 consecutive nights, the seaside town of New Quay witnessed up to 25 curled octopuses, each reaching 50 centimeters in length, crawling out of the sea. Sadly, some never made it back. While the incident might seem like a strange one-off occurrence, it's not the first time they've been spotted out of the water. Similar behavior has been reported in other parts of the world, including one as recent as 2020, often leaving researchers with more questions than answers. Humpback whales, usually incredibly solitary creatures, have been mystifying marine biologists and scientists alike by gathering in supergroups off the coast of South Africa. These gatherings, which can number anywhere from 20 to 200 whales, have been seen on several occasions, and nobody has any idea why. Some believe that the unexpected behavior could be caused by changes in their prey availability. It could also be that the whale's recovery from past whaling pressures is finally leading to increased social interaction, in which case, it would definitely be some of the best news of the decade. Viruses are the ultimate enigma. While we know they're masters of driving chaos, their origins remain a mystery. Several hypotheses exist, each suggesting a different path to viral evolution. According to one, they emerged from rebellious genetic elements that jump between cells like microscopic stowaways, while another proposes they evolved from ancient organisms that traded independence for a parasitic lifestyle. There's even the possibility that viruses predate cellular life, playing a role in its very evolution. Have you ever heard of forest rings? These massive circular patches caused by stunted tree growth can be found deep in the forests of northern Canada. Some rings span over 1 kilometer in diameter and have left scientists scratching their heads. There was once a theory that a central contamination point caused stunted growth, but this explanation has fallen out of favor due to lack of evidence. They might be the result of underground geological processes, a hidden ecological interaction, or something else entirely. The fact of the matter is that nobody knows. Have you ever stepped into bright sunlight and suddenly felt the urge to sneeze? Well, you're not alone. I do it all the time. This quirky phenomenon is known as the photic sneeze reflex, and it happens to a surprising number of people. Some researchers believe it could be caused by a genetic predisposition, while others have suggested it could be linked to the parasympathetic nervous system, which controls involuntary actions like sneezing. There's even one train of thought that suggests it might be nothing more than an evolutionary leftover reflex from when our ancestors had to clear their nasal passages after moving from their caves to bright sunlight. I can actually do it just by looking at a bright light. It literally doesn't have to be the sun. Sometimes when I have to sneeze, I just look up at the lights and I can do it. I'm definitely one of these. Do you sneeze with bright light? Let me know in the comments below. I want to know, is it just sunlight? For those who do, is it just sunlight for you or any light? Are you like me? The Newton Stone in Scotland is one of those artifacts that makes you wonder what ancient people were really up to. On one side, there's an inscription in Ogham, a script used by the Celts that experts think spells out a name. But the other side is where it gets really strange. 6 lines of completely unknown script that no linguist has been able to decode. Some believe it's an ancient form of Latin, others insisting it's Greek, and still others believing it could be Pictish, the long-lost language of Scotland's early people. Adding to the mystery are snake-like carvings, typical of Pictish art, that hint at some ceremonial or ritual use. What does it all mean? Nobody knows. Everyone knows the story of Amelia Earhart's disappearance, but have you heard about the mystery of the white bird? In 1927, French aviators Charles Nongesset and François Colli attempted the first non-stop transatlantic flight. Their biplane, the Whitebird, took off from Paris, intending to land in New York Harbor. When they vanished, many believe the plane had gone down in the Atlantic. Yet over the years, several reports have surfaced suggesting they may have made it as far as Maine. Harold Vinning, a Maine farmer, claimed to have heard a low-flying plane through dense fog on the same day the Whitebird disappeared. And a hermit fishing on a lake nearby reported hearing a sputtering engine and a crash. In 1958, a hunter named Arthur Dolan stumbled upon debris in the Maine woods that he thought might be from the missing plane. When he read about the Whitebird years later, he was convinced, but could never locate the wreckage again despite searching. Did Dolan truly stumble upon the remains of the Whitebird back in 1958? He's convinced he did, but will anyone ever recover the wreckage and finally reveal what led to its tragic end? 4-year-old Charlie left his mother Mary speechless one day when he casually remarked, "I died once." When she corrected him thinking he meant to say dived once, he insisted, "No, I died once, and it hurts." Over time, his unsettling statement turned into detailed accounts of a previous life as James Kello, a naval officer who served on the USS Arizona. Charlie described injuries and events that aligned with Kello's story. Kello died rescuing a crew member during the Pearl Harbor attacks. Skeptical, yet intrigued, Mary researched the ship's records and found Kello's name just as her son described. Do you believe in reincarnation? While science searches for answers, there are lots of stories like Charlie's that challenge everything we think we know about life and death. In 1987, 13-year-old David Guerrero was a rising talent in Malaga's art scene. Known as the child painter, he was preparing for a big moment, his first public art showing at the La Maison Gallery. But on April 6th, just after leaving home to catch a bus, David simply vanished. He was supposed to attend an interview and meet his father afterward, but he never showed up. Hours passed, and when his father and the gallery reported they hadn't seen him, the search began. The police investigated hundreds of leads, including strange sightings and tips from psychics, but nothing brought David back. He was officially declared dead 29 years after he vanished, yet people are still left wondering, how could a young boy on the brink of fame disappear without a trace? And where could he be after all this time? And real quick, guys, if you're enjoying this video and you want to help me out, please give it a like and comment to help the algorithm. I mean it. It'll help the channel a lot. I know we all say it does, and that's because it does. So thank you so much. HMO1, a Cuban shortwave number station, has been sending cryptic coded messages across the US since 2012. Many believe it must be some form of intelligence that's being sent to Cuban operatives across the world because instead of just a voice reading numbers like most number stations, HMO1 combines voice messages in Spanish with bursts of digital sounds.
8, 4, 8, 9, 8, 6, 8, 0, 5, 5, 6, 6, 0, 6, 6.
These broadcasts, coming from the same location as Radio Havana, repeat on a schedule, suggesting that HMO1 could be a tool for sending secure information. Oddly, listeners have picked up sounds from an old Windows XP system during glitches, implying that even older technology is enough to keep these mysterious messages going strong. In December 1926, Agatha Christie, already a well-known mystery writer, disappeared after her husband confessed to an affair and asked for a divorce. Her car was found abandoned near a quarry with a few personal items left inside, and a massive search began, involving thousands of volunteers, bloodhounds, and even some of her fellow writers. Speculation ran wild. Some thought she'd staged her own disappearance for publicity, while others believed she wanted to implicate her husband in a murder. Then, 11 days later, she was discovered staying at the Old Swan Hotel in Harrogate under the name Miss Teresa Neely, the surname of her husband's mistress. Diagnosed with amnesia, Christie claimed she couldn't remember those lost days, and she never spoke of it again. What happened to Agatha during those 11 days remains one of the most fascinating real-life mysteries in literary history. Skyquakes, those mysterious booming sounds that seem to come out of nowhere, have been reported in various parts of the world, but for some reason, particularly in coastal areas. The unexplained noises, often described as loud trumpets or booming cannons, have been known to shake buildings and rattle dishes. While scientists haven't pinpointed a single cause, the most common explanations include meteors entering the atmosphere, distant thunderstorms, earthquakes, gas explosions, and sonic booms from military aircraft. Desert varnish, that dark coating that appears on desert rocks, has puzzled scientists for centuries. It's been found to be a complex mix of clay minerals, manganese, iron oxides, trace elements, and even some organic matter. This has left scientists to wonder if this varnish is not in fact a byproduct of an undiscovered life form. Could there be tiny organisms in the desert that we haven't encountered yet? I'm no scientist, but I would say the chances are good. We all sleep, but have you ever stopped to wonder why? It's not just about feeling rested. Sleep is essential for life. If you don't sleep, your organs will eventually shut down and you will die. Even more mystifying is that none of us sleep the same way. I can even go so far as to say that different creatures have their very own different and unique sleeping patterns. There is ongoing research into sleep and how it affects us everywhere in the world. At Penn, researchers are taking it one step further by exploring the connections between sleep and everything from our metabolisms to our brain power, fertility, and even diseases like Alzheimer's. In 2017, a massive hollow, about 98 feet and 30 meters long, was discovered deep inside the Great Pyramid of Giza. The hidden chamber, located right above the pyramid's grand gallery, is believed to be a long, narrow corridor-like structure. News of its discovery sparked a wave of excitement and speculation, but to date, its exact purpose remains a mystery. It could be a hidden burial chamber for the pharaoh Khufu, the secret passageway, or room designed for rituals. While Egypt is notoriously secretive when it comes to any new discovery, for now the only thing that's been confirmed is that it seems to be a structural element of the pyramid. Have you ever looked at a dachshund and wondered, how the heck did a wolf turn into that? It's a fair question. While it's widely accepted that dogs descended from wolves, the exact path of their evolution remains a mystery. Recent research even suggests there might have been 2 separate domestication events involving distinct wolf populations. So, did early humans actively seek out and tame wolves? Or did some wolves simply find it advantageous to hang around human settlements for food scraps? Did genetic mutations play a role? Or was it a complex combustion of all of the above? The truth is, we've got no idea. Anyone who grew up in the 80s probably heard of Debbie Does Dallas, the infamous 1978 film that's still considered one of the most recognizable titles from the so-called golden age of porn. But what most people don't know is that the actress who played Debbie vanished without a trace. Known only by her stage name, Bambi Woods, her real identity was never revealed. Woods reportedly entered the adult industry to pay off debts, with Debbie Does Dallas as her only film. For a couple of years, she was a familiar face around the New York party scene, even frequenting hotspots like Studio 54. Then, as suddenly as she'd appeared, Woods dropped out of sight. In 2005, a documentary claimed to have tracked her down. However, in 2007, another woman claiming to be the real Woods disputed the entire story, albeit by email. I know, not the most trustworthy way to confirm nor deny an identity. So, who was the real Bambi Woods? Did she vanish by choice, or is there a whole lot more to this story that remains to be told? We all know the rhyme. In 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. But if you're Irish, the legend of St. Brendan the Navigator might make you question that history. St. Brendan, a 6th century Irish monk, is said to have sailed westward centuries before Columbus, or even the Vikings. His incredible journey is recorded in the Navigatio Sancti Brendani Abbatis, a 19th century account of his travels. According to the tale, Brendan and his monks encountered towering pillars of crystal, and finally reached the Promised Land that stretched beyond sight, potentially North America. In modern times, scholars like Barry Fell have linked this legend to Irish petroglyphs that have been found in West Virginia, while adventurer Tim Severin recreated Brendan's route in 1977, proving a voyage was, in fact, possible. Well, since I'm on the subject of Irish mystery, let me tell you another. St. Patrick is celebrated as the patron saint of all things Irish, and yet the exact location of his grave remains a mystery. While tradition in Northern Ireland holds that he's buried at Down Cathedral in Downpatrick, another legend points to Glastonbury Abbey in Somerset, England. According to medieval monks at Glastonbury, St. Patrick returned to Britain after his mission in Ireland, ultimately becoming the abbey's first abbot. Since St. Patrick was born in Roman Britain, it isn't entirely out of the question that he might have returned to his homeland in his later years. But with two countries each claiming the revered saint's final resting place, the question remains, where was St. Patrick actually buried? If you have a thing for lost treasures, you might be familiar with the Beale Papers. They were published in 1885 by James B. Ward and proclaimed that a man named Thomas J. Beale buried a gigantic stash of gold and silver somewhere in Bedford County, Virginia. Ward's story even had 3 coded ciphers, which would, once decoded, presumably provide the clues to the treasure's hiding place. One cipher, which was later decoded with the Declaration of Independence, gave details about the treasure itself. The other 2 have never been cracked. Whether this treasure really exists has been debated for years. Cryptographer Jim Gilligley thought that it might be a hoax, but he also didn't rule out the possibility of hidden layers. Then in 2001, a website called Unsolved claimed to have cracked the code and shared it online. But none of their solutions matched up with any known cipher methods, and their findings couldn't be verified. Even stranger was that one treasure hunter, Daniel Cole, died that same year while he was searching for Beale's treasure. With Ward's Masonic ties and the hidden Masonic symbols in the ciphers, the mystery has attracted treasure hunters, codebreakers, and skeptics from all over the world. But whether the treasure is still buried out there, waiting to be found, is anyone's guess. The legend of Atlantis began with Plato, who introduced it in his dialogues Timaeus and Critias, describing a great civilization that ultimately fell into ruin and sank beneath the ocean. But I'm not sure if you know this, there's an added mystery. Plato never finished his story. The dialogue Critias breaks off mid-sentence, and Plato's plan for a third work, Hermocrates, which would have expanded on Atlantis, were never completed. Why did he abandon this project? Some believe that Plato's unfinished work reflects his belief in the limitations of human knowledge. Others think he may have run out of time or lost interest in the trilogy's themes. Whatever the reason, he's left us hanging. Do you believe in the power of intuition? That well-known gut feeling? If we go back in history, there are countless cases where a hunch saved lives or changed the outcome of a disaster. As you can imagine, some scientists believe intuition is just a fancy word for lucky guess, while others champion it as a valuable tool honed through experience. However, a few recent studies have shed new light on the debate, after proving that a person's intuition can be measured and even improved with practice. What's even more intriguing is that it's been found that our brains process masses of information subconsciously, which means it could be influencing or even causing our gut feelings. that has opened up a whole new can of worms on the interconnectedness of our emotions, subconscious observations, and precognition. Plate tectonics, or the idea that Earth's outer shell is divided into massive moving plates, is probably the cornerstone of modern geology. In fact, it's one of the first things we learn in geography class, and it's truly amazing to think that these massive shifting and interacting plates are responsible for shaping our planet's continents, mountains, and oceans. But scientists are still struggling to understand when exactly this incredible process began and just how exactly the plates move and interact. Our consciousness, the thing that makes up our inner voice, our feelings, everything that makes us who we are, is a pretty amazing thing, right? But have you ever wondered what it actually is? Scientists have been scratching their heads over this one for ages, and it's easy to see why. After all, you can't exactly put it under a microscope and examine it. For the moment, we are investigating different brain scans and studying people with unique brain conditions in the quest to unlock the secrets of our gray matter. It might, however, be a while before we understand what makes us, us. Billions of years ago, Earth underwent a dramatic transformation known as the Great Oxygenation Event. Oxygen levels in the atmosphere skyrocketed, forever transforming our planet and paving the way for life as we know it today. But how exactly did it happen? That's a question that's puzzled scientists for years. They're currently looking into ancient banded iron formations, which could shed light on Earth's early atmosphere and life billions of years ago. Sea stars, some of the most beautiful inhabitants of our ocean, have been going through mass die-offs everywhere from the Pacific to the Atlantic in recent years. A strange sickness known as sea star wasting syndrome causes them to shrivel, lose limbs, and eventually disintegrate. While scientists have identified a densovirus as the culprit, the reason why this previously harmless virus is suddenly wreaking havoc is a mystery. It could be due to environmental stressors, a change in the virus itself, or a combination of factors. Hibernation, the ability of certain animals to enter a state of dormancy through harsh winter months, is a marvel of psychological adaptation. While we've all heard of bears and squirrels snoozing through the winter, the intricate mechanisms behind this survival strategy continue to intrigue scientists. How do these animals drastically lower their heart rates, respiration, and body temperatures while still maintaining vital function? And what protects them from the cold and prevents starvation during these extended periods of inactivity? In September 2006, a father and son had a terrifying encounter on Briggs Road in Wisconsin. Driving along the road, their headlights suddenly lit up a massive winged creature coming straight at them. Frozen with fear, they could only wait for it to hit. But just before impact, the creature let out an ear-piercing scream and shot up into the night sky. Afterward, both men came down with a mysterious illness and battled nausea for a week. They described the creature as having huge wings, yellow eyes, and rows of sharp teeth, earning it the nickname Man-Bat, or the Beast of Briggs Road. Their encounter has been documented in several books on Wisconsin's supernatural events, but what they witnessed remains a mystery. In late 2018, something bizarre washed up on Seabrook Island, South Carolina. At first, it looked like a massive hunk of concrete, but upon closer inspection, it was surprisingly soft and squishy. The Low Country Marine Mammal Network took a look and even posted pictures online hoping someone could identify it. That's when the theory started rolling in. Some thought it was a part of a NASA rocket. Others guessed space junk or an old buoy. Despite all the speculation, no one ever came up with an answer, and town officials eventually hauled it away. On May 20th, 1916, after a grueling journey across South Georgia's icy mountains, Ernest Shackleton, Frank Worsley, and Tom Crean finally stumbled into the whaling station at Stromness. Their mission was to find help for their stranded crew stuck on the island's far side. Despite exhaustion and treacherous conditions, the three men kept going by sheer will, and, as they later admitted, by something else. Each man described feeling an unseen presence traveling alongside them, almost like a fourth man guiding them to safety. Shackleton's experience isn't the only case where people under extreme stress report a mysterious companion. Aviator Charles Lindbergh describes feeling ghostly figures watching over him during his solo flight across the Atlantic, and climbers on Mount Everest have recounted similar encounters. Some psychologists suggest these felt presences could be a psychological response, but what if it's more than just psychology? What if, in our darker hours, there really is someone or something, call it a guardian angel if you will, there with us, helping us forward? What do you think? Everyone's heard of the Bermuda Triangle, But how about the strange disappearances in Australia's Bass Strait? In 1920, the SS Amelia J sailed into the treacherous waters between mainland Australia and Tasmania and vanished without a trace. When the Australian military sent out search planes to look for the missing ship, things got even weirder. 2 of those planes disappeared too. To top it off, witnesses reported seeing strange lights in the skies above the strait around the same time. But this wasn't the first time odd things happened in the Bass Strait. In 1901, the SS Federal and its 22 crew members were lost there. And in 1906, a German cargo ship, the Ferdinand Fischer, disappeared as it headed for Tasmania. And don't get me started on the planes. The eerie pattern of disappearances, along with the mysterious lights, has never fully been resolved. Okay, sticking to Australia's mysteries, let's do one UFO encounter, shall we? On April 6, 1966, students and teachers at Westall High School in Melbourne witnessed something incredible. A large, disc-shaped object floating silently over their schoolyard before landing in a nearby field. Hundreds of witnesses saw the object descend in. In fact, some even saw the scorched, flattened grass and small indentations where it touched down. As if that weren't enough, other witnesses described 5 smaller craft trailing it, either guiding it or giving it chase. Soon after, students were allegedly approached by men in dark suits who told them to keep quiet, and the school's headmaster even held a special assembly urging everyone to stay silent. These warnings, paired with the sudden official explanation that it was all just a weather balloon, left many wondering if there was more to the story, and why on earth everyone wanted to keep it all under wraps. The Great Pacific Garbage Patch is a massive collection of plastic and debris located in the North Pacific Ocean between Hawaii and California that's a growing concern for scientists and environmentalists alike. Formed by a system of rotating ocean currents, known as the North Pacific Subtropical Gyre, the massive accumulation of trash, including microplastics, is a complex problem with no easy solutions. While we've made significant progress in understanding its formation and composition, we're still trying to figure out just how much this plastic soup is messing with the ocean's delicate ecosystem and, more importantly, how we can clean it up. What if gravity, electromagnetism, and the forces inside atoms were merely different manifestations of a single unified force? That is the concept behind the theory of everything, and it's every physicist's holy grail. If we ever prove this theory, it would be a huge breakthrough in science, potentially changing everything from our technology to how we understand the origins of the universe. The human body is a complex ecosystem teeming with trillions of microorganisms, collectively known as the human microbiome. It includes bacteria, viruses, and fungi, all living in and on our bodies. I know it's not a very pleasant thought, but these guys are not living on us rent-free. Recently, scientists have started to uncover the intricate relationship between humans and their microbiome and revealed fascinating links between our gut bacteria and conditions like obesity, diabetes, and even depression. But for the moment, we still don't understand their role in our development and have no idea how they communicate with our cells. Prion diseases, a rare and terrifying group of brain disorders, seem to come straight out of a science fiction novel. You know what? Scrap that. Horror novel. They're not caused by bacteria, viruses, or fungi, but by tiny misfolded proteins called prions. These rogue proteins can wreak havoc on the brain, leading to devastating symptoms like dementia, loss of coordination, and even death. To date, scientists still don't understand how these prions replicate and spread, or how they manage to inflict such damage on our brains. Have you ever seen a Venus flytrap in action? The way it snaps shut when it senses the presence of an insect is a perfect example of thigmonesty, which is nothing more than a fancy word for a plant's response to touch. Scientists are still studying the details of this phenomenon. How exactly do plants sense touch? What triggers their rapid movements? And how has this unique adaptation helped them thrive in their environments? Back in 1996, archaeologists made a surprising find near Colchester, Essex, a wooden burial chamber dating to around 40 to 60 CE. Inside, along with the remains of a man, they found a fascinating mix of items. A cloak adorned with scalpels, needles, and retractors, along with a mugwort, a jet bead, metal poles, and even a chessboard. Experts are divided on who he might have been. The medical tools suggest he could have been a doctor practicing in Roman Britain, but with the herbs and sacred-looking objects, some think he might have been a druid, a member of the ancient Celtic religious order known for their herbal knowledge and mysticism. Identifying druid artifacts is tricky though. especially since the only detailed account of British druids comes from the Roman historian Tacitus. So whether this man was a healer, a druid, or something else entirely remains an open question. In an unsettling discovery made in 2016, archaeologists in Ecuador found something truly bizarre. 2 infants buried with helmets made from the skulls of other children. Dating back to around 100 BCE, these graves held infants as young as 6 months old with skulls of slightly older children carefully fitted over their heads. One infant's face was even positioned to look through the eye sockets of the skull above it. Whether these skull helmets were meant to protect the infant's spirits, connect them to ancestral beliefs, or even just reflect survival challenges, we'll probably never know the full story. In 2016, hunters and locals near Igloolik, Nunavut reported hearing a strange pinging sound echoing through the Fury and Hekla Strait. The noise wasn't just strange. It seemed to be scaring off seals and other marine animals and seriously disrupting hunting in the area. In response, the Canadian military sent a CP-140 Aurora aircraft loaded with sensors to investigate the source of the sound. But after hours of searching, the team came up empty-handed. No unusual sounds, no suspicious activity, just a few pods of whales and walruses. Some think sonar equipment or underwater mining might be to blame, while others suggest natural causes are at play. However, the mysterious Arctic ping was ultimately left completely unexplained. Historian Dan DeLuca has dedicated much of his life to researching the mysterious homeless man known as the Leatherman. His fascination began after discovering the Leatherman's grave in Sparta Cemetery, Ossining, New York, where a headstone mistakenly names him as Jules Bourlet of Lyons, France, which is a mystery in and of itself. The Leatherman had intrigued people across Westchester County and western Connecticut since the 1850s. He followed a precise 360-mile circuit between the Hudson and Connecticut rivers every month, dressed head to toe in homemade leather and wooden shoes. Known for rarely speaking, he slept in caves or outside and hardly ever entered buildings, only staying inside briefly when he did. For over 30 years, newspapers tracked his journey, recording each visit and fueling local curiosity. The mystery surrounding him even inspired Pearl Jam to write a song in his honor. But it gets even weirder. In 2011, researchers opened his grave to take DNA samples, hoping to finally uncover his identity. Instead, they only found animal bones. His grave wasn't even his grave. Today, his marker simply reads The Leatherman, and his name, age, birthplace, and origins remain unknown. Black holes, famous for their immense gravity, have a mind-boggling secret at their core: a singularity, a point where, we believe, matter is compressed to an unimaginable density. However, emerging research suggests this singularity might be a mirage, hinting at the gap in our current understanding of physics. Instead of a singularity, exotic phenomena like quantum fuzzballs, Planck stars, or even wormholes could be lurking at the heart of a black hole, and there's no way for us to confirm it until our technology or understanding of physics gets better. We all experience time as something that always moves forward. I mean, we remember yesterday, not tomorrow, right? Well, when it comes to the laws of physics, everything we thought we knew about time changes. In physics, time is like a river that flows in both directions. The river itself doesn't care which way it goes, but things happening inside it can create a current that makes it seem like it's only flowing one way. Now, I'm oversimplifying it, but that's kind of like how we experience time. The laws of physics that govern the universe don't have a preface for time going forward or backwards. It's the events within the universe that create the illusion of an arrow of time, making us feel like time only moves in one direction. We still have no idea why, but every night we go to a magical, or perhaps terrifying, dreamland within our own minds. The common theory is that dreams are the byproduct of our brain filing away our memories of the day, like a sort of visual representation of your computer defragmenting. However, a lot of people who have dreamt about riding unicorns or all their teeth falling out could, tell you something different. Some scientists believe they help us control our emotions, prepare for threats, or just completely random threads of consciousness woven together during your brain's downtime. Others believe that dreams are a more spiritual experience, messages from the depths of your subconscious, or even visions from the future. However, the real answer is probably a mix of all of these different possible explanations. We may never know the real reason why we dream of unicorns or fallen out teeth, but hey, whether it's a message from the future or your subconscious, they're pretty entertaining. When a man's body was pulled from a car wreck in 1995, police had no way of identifying him. All they had to go by was that he was a Grateful Dead fan, as he had 2 tickets to a concert in his pocket. Other than that, there were few other pieces of evidence. In 2015, 20 years after the car accident, there was a breakthrough. A Reddit user put all the clues together and posted them for the world to see. It quickly gained traction, earning thousands of upvotes, until it was spotted by the ex-roommate of the man. Using DNA evidence from his mother, he was identified as Jason Callahan, and the mystery was finally laid to rest. Are you a fan of puzzles? Maybe you enjoy solving Sudoku or like a good brain teaser. If that's the case, Cicada 3301 would have had you on the edge of your seat back in 2012. It began with an image posted on Reddit aimed at highly intelligent individuals. The first image contained code that led to a subreddit with more clues. These built on one another, becoming increasingly complex, and slowly demanding that a team of people cooperate rather than just individuals. In Reddit communities, puzzle hunters shared information in a quest that turned into a worldwide treasure hunt, with some clues stamped onto street signs in Australia. It all ended at a website that only a few people saw before it mysteriously went offline. The exact purpose of the puzzles is still unknown, but one theory is that it was used to recruit cryptography specialists. In 2013, a series of bizarre YouTube videos began to appear under the channel WebDriver Torso. They featured either red or blue shapes, accompanied by beeping sounds, with most lasting 10 seconds. Theories began spreading over Reddit that the channel was some sort of sophisticated code, possibly sent by extraterrestrials. Others believed it could be a puzzle, like Cicada 3301. But in 2014, all that was put to bed by Google, who revealed that the company was simply testing video and audio quality. Nothing more. These days, it's common knowledge that most electronics have some kind of listening device in them, and it's mostly used for good. But there are some items that you would never expect to be listening in. Back in 2013, a Reddit user uploaded a picture of a strange piece of electronics he found hidden inside an extension lead. Online investigators got to work and soon connected the product code to the same model on Amazon, which turned out to be a piece of surveillance equipment. The original poster never found out who bugged his room or why. Fancy yourself a handyman? Well, take a look at this image and tell me how this nail could be hammered into that position. No, it is not an optical illusion, nor is it a work of Photoshop. Instead, it all depends on a very specific stage of the process. Reddit users worked out that the top piece of wood is slightly bent. That's because it's basswood, which can bend and compress after getting wet. The trick is to dip it in boiling water, compress the top part as much as possible, and hammer the nail through before allowing it to spring back to its natural shape. There's even an explainer video walking through the steps, but learning the method always ruins the trick, doesn't it? What does it take to inspire great art? In 2013, Reddit user TrampStopDan had a glimpse inside the mind of an artist. He posted an image of an old, worn-out wooden box, which he called the Box of Crazy. There were hundreds of illustrations inside, telling a vast and complicated story, covering mechanical designs, UFO sightings, four-headed beings, and extraterrestrials. Reddit was able to identify the author as a Danish man named Daniel S. Christensen. Christensen once had a powerful experience viewing a UFO, and it inspired him to make decades worth of artwork. The collection has even been displayed in exhibitions for the public to see. What would you do if a homeless man approached you and gave you $50 along with a note? Well, one Redditor experienced just that and uploaded everything. One side of the note was a string of letters arranged like a crossword with more on the back. The money wasn't what it seemed either. It too had some kind of code written into it. Needless to say, it quickly captured the attention of Reddit sleuths. Hours of painstaking work resulted in using what's called a bifid cipher, and the message was revealed, instructing the reader to meet them in public at a later date. A mass of people showed up at the location looking for a blue jay that had been mentioned in the message. In the end, no further clues were found. Maybe he should have kept the task to himself. In 1949, a Russian geologist stumbled upon a colossal jagged scar on the Earth's surface unlike anything he had ever seen. The geological oddity, known as the Potomsky crater, is a massive mound of shattered limestone that's 520 feet or 158.5 meters at its base and over 40 feet or 12 meters high. It's so massive that its estimated interior volume exceeds 8 million cubic feet or 226,534 cubic meters, and its weight is a staggering 1 million tons. Its insides are just as strange, with a central cone reaching nearly the same height as the outer walls. Scientists are baffled by its origins. Meteorite? Volcano? The leading theory connects it to the nearby Tunguska event. However, the estimated age of Potomsky crater, from a few hundred to a few thousand years old, makes it hundreds of years older. By the age of 32, Alexander the Great ruled over a vast empire stretching from the Balkans to Pakistan. A sudden illness brought an end to his reign in 323 BCE. Historical documents tell us that his body was brought back to Egypt 2 years later, and that it was held in the city of Memphis while his tomb was being prepared in Alexandria. That tomb has never been found. The consensus is that it has to be underwater, as the palace's district where it was built is now submerged. But even if it is found, identification might be difficult. If it has indeed spent years underwater, natural forces might have removed the inscriptions, and researchers will rely on an intact inscription to confirm that it is in fact Alexander's final resting place. Sticking with ancient Egypt, let's explore the mystery of Cleopatra's tomb. Legend has it that after her death in 30 BCE, she was buried alongside her lover, Mark Antony, not the singer. Ancient writer Plutarch described their tomb as a, quote, lofty and beautiful monument near the Temple of Isis, writing that it was filled with treasures. In 2010, a famous Egyptian archaeologist, Zahi Hawass, led excavations near Alexandria, at a site called Taposiris Magna, known for tombs from Cleopatra's era. And while they found interesting artifacts, Cleopatra's tomb wasn't there. Many believe that it might be submerged within Alexandria. The search continues. On the night of November 22, 1987, during the 9 p.m. newscast on WGN-TV, a person wearing a Max Headroom mask and a loud buzzing sound hijacked the broadcast signal for about 17 seconds. WGN engineers quickly regained control and returned the broadcast to the newscast. 2 hours later, another hijacking occurred. This time, it targeted the PBS affiliate WTTW during their broadcast of Doctor Who. PBS wasn't as fortunate as WGN, and the nonsensical transmission, complete with a woman's hand and fly swatter, lasted over 90 seconds before the hijackers disappeared. The FCC investigated the incident, but the motive and the people behind the Max Headroom signal hijacking remain a mystery to this day. The skies around Los Angeles International Airport have been abuzz with the mystery of Jetpack Man since 2020. First spotted by pilots, the unidentified figure has been seen soaring through the air on multiple occasions, with one report placing him a mere 300 feet or 91 meters from a commercial airplane wing. No one has ever stepped forward to claim responsibility for these flights, and sightings continue to occur, with the most recent being in 2022 when Jetpack Man was spotted at an altitude of 4,500 feet, or 1,371 meters. In the most recent case, the LAPD released images showing an inflatable balloon resembling Jack Skellington, which might be a possible explanation for the Jetpack Man sighting, but the theory has yet to be proven. 9 years ago, an image was posted on Reddit that nearly brought down the entire site. It was one of the earliest products of artificial intelligence, and it certainly shows. It depicted something resembling a squirrel, though with far too many eyes, an almost alien-like body shape and a kind of psychedelic effect. One commenter broke down the image, explaining that the AI model must have used an image of a squirrel which was cloned over and over and over and over again, resulting in a kind of swirling effect. AI has definitely come a long way since then. Want to see something really creepy? Watch this black and white video from 2016. It's a figure in a plague doctor's outfit facing the camera, making signals with his hands, with bizarre, static, screeching noise underneath. Entitled 11BX1371, the video was delivered to a Swedish tech blogger's office, sent from somewhere in Poland. Once it hit Reddit, theories began flying. Maybe it was a marketing stunt, an elaborate prank, or simply a wild goose chase. A method called audio spectrogram analysis found that the frequencies actually spelled out the words, "You are already dead." Other parts of the video contain the coordinates of the White House and a handful of other strange clues. Whatever the reason, no one has gotten to the bottom of it yet, and I'm not sure I want to. Back in the 1990s, there was no Spotify, and radio was still the norm. You couldn't really choose what was on. But one broadcast was extremely unsettling, and by chance, one man happened to record it. The station was WKCR 89.9 in New York, and the recording plays a few seconds of music, then everything goes silent, and what follows is hard to decipher. There are foreign, spooky noises, and at one point a voice begins to read the names of people who have died. Redditors proposed multiple possible explanations, one of them being that it was a kind of experimental art project. Since the station is known as a college station for Columbia University, well, this isn't hard to imagine. Even if it is, the old tape is still terrifying. Maybe you're not like me, but I can't imagine why some people actively seek out the horrifying, watching movies and playing games designed to scare them. Sometimes, though, even for thrill seekers, this media just goes too far. That was the case with the game Sad Satan, which was marketed as the scariest game ever. The mechanics looked simple enough. Players would walk down dark corridors and be confronted by flashes of graphic pictures. The gameplay already looks terrifying, but a later version made these images even more graphic, and probably illegal. When Redditors dug into the game, they had questions. The only video of gameplay came from the YouTube channel Obscure Horror Corner, which claimed to have found it on the dark web. But the link was invalid, so Redditors started to believe that the game itself could have been part of a marketing campaign from the channel, and that this version was later hijacked to insert even worse images. Winning the lottery should be the best day of your life, not one of your last. After Abraham Shakespeare, a laborer from Florida, won $17 million, he bought a nice house, a car, and a fancy Rolex. Other than that, though, he refrained from spending too much. In his fatal mistake, he also launched a business with his financial advisor, a woman named Dee Dee Moore. Thinking he could trust her, Moore was secretly plotting to take him out. When he went missing soon after, online investigators slowly put the pieces together. Moore made an account on the website Web Sleuths to defend herself, unaware that she had revealed her IP address and email, which was later used as evidence to convict her. It just goes to show, be careful who you share your plans with, even your financial advisor. It's been more than 60 years since President John F. Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas, Texas on November 22, 1963. Although Lee Harvey Oswald was apprehended for the crime, questions remain as to whether he acted alone, and we may never find out because he was shot and killed by Jack Ruby before the trial could begin. While the Warren Commission concluded that Oswald acted as a lone gunman and Ruby's motive was personal, many, including professional historians, remain unconvinced. JFK's death remains the subject of a lot of conspiracy theories, and since some of the official documents remain sealed, and there's little chance that new evidence will be discovered, we'll probably never have a universally accepted answer. Established around the 10th century, the Norse settlement thrived for about 500 years or so. Then, by the late 1400s, everything changed. The colony vanished. Homes stood empty, supplies untouched, as if the inhabitants simply ceased to exist. Over 500 years later, the reasons behind this disappearance remain a mystery, but it's been theorized that they might have left since the land was too inhospitable, or that they might have been kidnapped or murdered by local Inuit populations. However, none of the theories answer why all of their belongings and supplies remained. Everything appears orderly, and there are no signs of being raided or planned departure. There's also no evidence of violence nor looting, and starvation seems unlikely. It's like they were there one day and just gone the next. Egypt's last pharaoh, Caesarion, was shrouded in controversy from his very first breath. Born in 47 BCE, he was the love child of Cleopatra VII and Julius Caesar. Cleopatra boldly claimed him as Caesar's heir, solidifying this position by making him her co-ruler in 44 BCE. However, doubt swirled around Caesarion's true parentage, and despite Cleopatra's pronouncements, Caesar never publicly acknowledged the child as his own. In fact, one of Caesar's close friends categorically denied the claim, pamphlets being the preferred method of public pronouncements back then. The lack of surviving remains from either Julius Caesar or Caesarion makes a definitive answer through DNA testing impossible. So, whether Egypt's last pharaoh truly bridged the gap between Rome and Egypt, or if he was simply a pawn in Cleopatra's political maneuvers, will forever remain a mystery. Most hotels do their best to make customers feel comfortable in a home away from home. Hotel Zaza in Houston apparently isn't one of those places. Reddit user Joe Likes Music posted about his experience at Hotel Zaza, which left him feeling unsettled, to say the least. His room was decorated with pictures of skulls, and the bed was held up by an old chain. He told the front desk about this, and was quickly relocated to a different room. There had been some sort of mix-up, because usually that room was forbidden from being rented out. Luckily for Reddit, Joe snapped some pictures before being moved. The leading theory is that there's some connection with the secretive Skull and Bone Society, since the number of the room, 322, is another name for the group. I guess that would explain the skulls in the room too. Have you ever noticed scratches or bumps on your car? Sometimes you're sure of which car did it, but it's far too late. Well, this next story is an example of Reddit hunting down one of those cars. In 2012, a user posted an image of a smashed front headlight, desperate to identify the model. This was all they had left from a hit and run and needed some help tracking down the offender. The day was saved by one person, under the username, I Have a Stupid Cat. Fantastic name. Unlike their pet, they were smart and apparently had a sharp eye for car models. They informed the original poster that the car he was looking for was a 1990 Cadillac Brougham. That information was sent to the police, who were able to identify the offender. Reddit has the power to solve much more than a hit-and-run incident. It began in 2015 when a young woman was looking into the history of her ancestors in Akron, Ohio. While researching, she found an unmarked grave containing a person simply described as unknown white female bones. The bones were from a 1975 murder, and that's when she reached a dead end, so she turned it over to Reddit as a last-ditch effort. One user, a forensic artist, remade the skeletal remains into a full-fleshed face, all for free. This eventually led to identifying the deceased as Linda Pagano, who had been missing since the 70s, and at last giving closure to her long-grieving family. Because of an online investigator, a policeman might be able to appeal a 20-year sentence. In 2015, Officer Michael Slager shot a man named Walter Scott who was fleeing on foot. After shooting 8 rounds, Slager reported to the dispatcher that the suspect had grabbed his taser. But this version was soon contested when a video from an eyewitness surfaced, which appeared to show Scott running away. The video caused a public backlash and eventually had Slager charged with murder. After seeing the video online, a forensic consultant named Daniel Vauchard analyzed it extensively, focusing on one frame that appeared to show Scott throwing a taser. If true, it would add some nuance to the incident and allow Michael Slager to appeal his conviction. Imagine waking up one day and finding a strange note on your desk. Now imagine that it keeps happening again and again. The handwriting isn't yours, and you live alone. What do you do? Well, that's what happened to Reddit user rbradbury1920, who posted his eerie story in the legal advice subreddit. He went to the extent of setting up a webcam, but still couldn't catch anyone. Whether it was an intrusive landlord or secret admirer, Reddit wanted to get to the bottom of it. Rather than identifying an elusive suspect, the best advice came back in the form of a question. They asked if the poster might be suffering from some kind of dissociative disorder, or maybe there was a carbon monoxide leak inside his apartment. Sure enough, Bradbury1920 replied that he had been experiencing severe headaches. Case solved, and hopefully he got some medical help. Have you ever heard of someone suffering a brain injury or illness who woke up with the ability to speak a new language or solve complex math problems? Well, that's the incredible world of acquired savant syndrome. The biggest mystery with this condition is obviously the sudden appearance of skills the person never had before. I mean, can you imagine just coming out of a coma and flawlessly playing the piano? Scientists believe these incredible talents might be the result of the brain rewiring itself after injury, in the process unlocking abilities that were lying dormant. However, the exact workings and mechanisms behind the remarkable transformations are a complete mystery. But you know what else is a big mystery? The fact that you haven't liked, shared, commented, or subscribed yet? I mean, it truly helps the channel. Oh, and don't forget our socials. Links below. Found in 1952 at Qumran alongside the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Copper Scroll immediately set itself apart. Unlike its fellow scrolls crafted from papyrus, the Copper Scroll's message was etched directly onto the metal copper. Go figure. However, the inscription itself held the real intrigue, a meticulously detailed list of a hidden treasure, a massive cache of gold and silver that, if real, could be worth millions of dollars today. Dating back roughly 2,000 years, the scroll coincides with the time the Jewish rebellions against Roman rule took place, so most scholars believe the treasure may in fact have been meticulously hidden to avoid Roman seizure. If so, I guess we'd all like to know if the treasure was real and where it was hidden. There's no evidence of anyone ever finding it, so it could definitely still be out there. The placebo effect is a fascinating phenomenon. People taking an inactive substance, a sugar pill for example, might experience relief from whatever ails them simply because they believe the medicine is real. There's also a thing known as the nocebo effect, which is basically the opposite side of the coin. Here, people taking a fake medication experience negative side effects that they believe are associated with the real drug. Now, while the results of both the placebo and nocebo mind-body effects are clear, the biological pathways involved remain largely unknown. It's a mystery exactly how the brain communicates with the body to come up with these kind of effects. Have you ever heard of the Great Unconformity? It's an area in the Grand Canyon where billions of years worth of rock layers are simply missing. This missing time period coincides with the Cambrian explosion when life on Earth rapidly diversified. So, understanding what happened during this era is incredibly important. Rock formations naturally have gaps, called unconformities, but the Great Unconformity is on a colossal scale. It's like the difference between a book missing a few pages and one with entire chapters ripped out. Similar gaps have been identified worldwide. In some locations, the missing rock represents a staggering 40% of Earth's history. So, where did it all go? And here lies the mystery. According to one theory, glaciers scoured the missing rock away during the snowball Earth period. Another, more dramatic theory claims that Rodinia, a supercontinent even older than Pangaea, might be the culprit. If, as some theorize, massive pieces of eroded rock filled the oceans, this could have altered the water's chemistry, enriching it with minerals and nutrients. And that, in turn, could have provided early life forms with the resources necessary to evolve, paving the way for the Cambrian explosion. I mean, that's pretty amazing, right? Okay, we all know that Jesus wasn't born on December 25th. That date, in all probability, comes from its proximity to Saturnalia, a Roman winter festival. In fact, the earliest records of December 25th as Jesus' birthday appear in the 4th century, centuries after he lived and died. Early Christians themselves disagreed on the date, with some Orthodox Christians celebrating on January 6th or 7th. Adding to the mystery, even the year we traditionally use is probably inaccurate. Most scholars believe Jesus' birth was closer to 4 BCE. Nothing gets by the observant eyes of Redditors, which is why when a random subreddit opened with only numbers and letters, the site soon collaborated to crack the code. One person, going by the username Fraglet, found the type of encryption being used in one file and applied it to another. What came out was some ASC2 art, basically a bunch of symbols arranged to make a shape, like a simple smiley face. What was the image produced by the code? Well, the famous mysterious monument of Stonehenge. Are you the kind of person who sees a button and just has to push it? For a period of 2 months in 2015, Reddit would have been the perfect place for you. A subreddit was created with a huge box simply titled, The Button. The rules were simple. If a timer ever reached 0, the program would end. But if someone clicked it, the timer would reset to 60 seconds. A strong community quickly formed to keep watch. They attacked users who never pressed it, and tried to set up an automated program through a network of accounts. By the time the experiment ended, 3 months in, over 1 million accounts had been involved. It turned out to be a simple April Fool's prank by Reddit, but it proved once again the power of the Redditors. If you've ever played Grand Theft Auto 5, then you know how the game is just filled with details. There are side quests, Easter eggs, and secret messages all over the map. That's the perfect testing ground for Redditors, who didn't take long to find that Mount Chiliad was home to some strange markings, like symbols of a jetpack, an alien egg, and a UFO. This hunt inspired its own subreddit, where users found that in the game's scripts, the alien egg should exist somewhere. But 11 years later, still hasn't been discovered. When a gigantic metal cylinder appeared on an Australian beach last year, locals didn't know what to make of it. Some speculated that it might belong to the infamous missing flight MH370, but there was no match. A police investigation couldn't crack the mystery, and so once again, it was left up to the eagle-eyed detectives of Reddit. User Fizzrock correctly identified the object as the fuel cylinder of the Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle, launched by India years ago. Experts agreed, explaining that this part detaches from the main craft and usually drops off into the ocean. Only this one somehow found its way to a sunny Australian beach. Have you ever used a shower with a curtain? Let me ask you this. Did you notice it float towards you once the water was on? Well, you might not have thought about it, but you've had a first-hand experience with a serious debate in physics. And on Reddit. Users propose theories, all drawing on different physics principles, but the most likely answer comes from a mechanical engineering professor, David Schmidt. Schmidt ran it through a computer simulation that determined that the reason for the behavior came from a vortex being created by the water falling, described as a hurricane turned on its side. Now that's a much cooler way of describing a shower. The Pythagorean theorem, A squared plus B squared equals C squared is one of the cornerstones of every math nightmare, and the life and the work of Pythagoras himself are wrapped in mystery. Part of the problem is the secrecy surrounding his philosophical school. To this day, nobody's actually 100% sure which ideas originated with Pythagoras and which belonged to the other members. To add to the intrigue, there's also some evidence that suggests the Babylonians knew this theorem centuries before Pythagoras even came to be. So, while the theorem bears his name, was he truly the genius behind it? We may have been hating the wrong guy all along. If you're into Greek mythology, you'll know about the Minotaur, a half-bull, half-man monster that was imprisoned in King Minos's labyrinth. But was this labyrinth real? Many archaeologists believe the labyrinth was a real structure, and the palace at Knossos on Crete is a popular guess. However, excavations haven't revealed any maze-like structures there. New research has thrown another contender into the ring, a stone quarry near Gorton, about 20 miles away. Only time that maybe a good shovel will tell. We've all heard of cases where a cancer tumor suddenly shrank or even disappeared altogether, all without any treatment. It's known as spontaneous regression, and while the exact reason for this is a mystery, fasting could be a possible trigger. Some studies have shown a connection between long periods without food and unexpected tumor reduction. Some scientists believe it might happen because fasting triggers a process called autophagy. This is basically the body's way of cleaning out damaged cells and making new, healthier ones. Fasting can also lower sugar, glucose, and insulin levels. Cancer cells rely heavily on these for growth, so fasting might starve them out. For now, the link between spontaneous regression and fasting still needs a lot more research, but it's definitely an intriguing avenue that might help a lot of cancer patients. In December 2012, the skies over Sri Lanka lit up as the Polonnaruwa meteorite fell over the northeast region. What began as a routine analysis of the fragments quickly took a dramatic turn when researchers discovered the fragments contained extraterrestrial fossils and algae. Professor Chandra Wickramasinghe, leading the first study, saw these fossils as evidence for panspermia, the idea that life spreads throughout the universe via meteorites. However, critics questioned his objectivity. The alien fossils also looked a lot like common earthly freshwater organisms, which raised concerns that the meteorite might have been contaminated after landing. If all life came from the stars, the tests on the Polonnaruwa meteorite fragments in all likelihood prove it, but we'll probably never know. There's something about doors that attracts our curiosity. It's only logical to think that a door must lead to something important, otherwise, why would someone build it, right? That's why Reddit became obsessed with a mysterious door built at the bottom of a seawall in France. Some believe that it could have been used as an emergency bunker during World War II, which seemed like a plausible explanation. However, much more likely was the top comment, which suggested that it was a stormwater runoff, allowing it to empty directly into the ocean. Forget crop circles. Check out these strange markings carved into the soil. Seen from above, they look like intricate leaves, nearly all of them the same size. After coming across them on Google Maps, Reddit user Rabo_6 uploaded an image in search of answers. Sure enough, the answers soon came back. These are what is known as trial trenches, which are dug in the early stages of archaeological work to survey the area. It helps them avoid excavating the entire space. Usually done in the dead of night by troublesome teenagers, graffiti is in almost every city on Earth. One place you wouldn't expect to find it is in a national park, which is why the Reddit hiking subreddit was so enraged when images of graffiti across several national parks were posted. The post identified the vandal as Casey Knockett, who went by the artist named Creepytings. It also attracted the attention of the National Park Service, and Knockett was charged with vandalism, banned from the parks for 2 years, and sentenced to 200 hours of community service. Have you ever seen those videos where people use vibrations to create patterns with things like sand or water? If you haven't, just Google cymatics. It was pioneered in the 18th century by Ernst Chladni and studies how sound waves interact with different materials like sand, water, or even metal. The true magic of cymatics lies in its ability to reveal the hidden order within sound. Different frequencies produce different and distinct patterns, which, in my opinion, proves a much deeper connection between sound and physical form than we probably realize. And yet, despite ongoing research, the exact mechanisms behind cymatic pattern formation remain a mystery. Have you ever heard of the Eleusinian Mysteries? They were a religious cult in ancient Greece that had everyone begging to become initiates. Everyone wanted to be initiated into the club, from everyday citizens to emperors and philosophers. But why the secrecy? And what exactly went on behind those closed doors? Well, that's where the real mystery begins. Apart from secretive rituals, nobody really knows. The strict oaths of silence by initiates and a lack of historical records make it difficult to be 100% sure what happened at these ceremonies. But the focus was probably on Demeter, the goddess of agriculture, and Persephone, the goddess of death and the afterlife. And since the Greeks had no issue with psychoactive substances, these were probably also involved. But again, solid evidence is scarce. The ultimate purpose of the rituals is lost. Did they offer enlightenment or connection to the afterlife? Our questions will never be answered. The time of the dinosaurs ended 65 million years ago, and while their sudden disappearance remains a paleontological mystery, it's a mystery that continues to fascinate me and countless others. Over the years, two prime culprits came to the fore. The Chicxulub crater in Mexico proves that a colossal asteroid hit the Earth around that time. An impact of that magnitude would have launched dust and debris into the atmosphere, blocking sunlight from reaching the Earth for years. The ensuing global blackout would have crippled photosynthesis and led to massive die-offs of plant and animal life. In India, on the other hand, we have the Deccan traps, which proves that massive volcanoes erupted around more or less the same time as the extinction event. However, some believe they happened even before the asteroid. These eruptions would have released greenhouse gases and choked the skies with ash, leading to a dramatic temperature shift and, yeah, you guessed it, massive die-offs. While the asteroid impact theory currently holds more weight due to the Chicxulub crater, the possibility that one led to the other remains a compelling alternative. This might be one of the biggest mysteries of them all. How did our mind-bogglingly massive universe come to be? Scientists believe in the Big Bang, a colossal explosion that kickstarted everything. But while the Big Bang is a powerful theory, it doesn't answer every question. What created dark matter? Why is there more matter than antimatter? And most importantly, what triggered the Big Bang in the first place? Religion offers creation myths filled with deities that, depending on your upbringing and culture, also leave a lot open for speculation. When you take a step back and objectively look at science and religion's different stances, it becomes clear that we have two approaches to the same grand puzzle. Religion asking why the universe exists, and science asking how it functions. And who knows? Maybe the answer lies beyond our current understanding. The universe might in fact be a story waiting to be unraveled, a story far stranger and more beautiful than anything we can ever imagine. So, if you could solve any mystery, which one would you pick? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed today's video, you'll love the chills I'm about to send down your spine in the video we did a while back, 25 urban legends you didn't know. Yeah, you're gonna wanna watch that, trust me. And to go to that video now, just simply click the link right here.